good primitive data types. Okay, we call it as 7 primitive data types so far. Okay, so and those are like numbers. We also have what we call it as strings, and then we have begin, we have null, undefined, symbol, and all these are primitive data types. Okay, 7 primitive data types of JavaScript. Now let's say let number is equal to 1 to 3. Okay, what does this say? So this says certain things. What is it? We have created a variable by name num, and that variable num is storing a single value. Okay, it is storing a single value only at a given point in time. All right, now if I ask you a question like, what are your favorite colors? Okay, a simple question might be, what are your favorite colors? So what the answer should contain more than one color. Okay, now let's say my favorite color is blue, then there is black, there is white. So let's say I have 3 favorite colors: blue, black, and white. Now how do you store that in a single variable? That's a big challenge, right? Like if you say let favorite color is equal to, I can't go ahead and say in a single thing, I can't go ahead and say blue, then there is white, and then there is black. Even though this can be done using a string, but it is not 3 different values. It is just a single value which is supposed to be a string. Now this problem can be solved using what we call it as arrays. Okay? So this problem of solving multiple values in a single variable can be solved using arrays. Now, what are these arrays? For that, let's take a simple example. Suppose there is a big train. Okay, there's a huge train, and that is magnetic levitation train, and it has got lot of compartments or coaches that is available in that train. Okay, like for example, if you can see this window, this is, let's say this is for one particular compartment or a coach. There is another here, there is another here, and so on and so forth. Totally there are 5 coaches or compartments in a train. Now each compartment might contains a number of seats or berths that are available in that train. Let's say if I want to store a variable which can store the compartment names. Let's say these are the compartment names that I have: C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. These are the compartment or coaches that I have in a particular train. So when these kind of situation arise, there is a possible solution that we have in the name of arrays. Arrays, what they do, they are a simple data structures. Okay, they are simple data structures, which means they are the ones that will store the value or the data. Okay, and they are defined as a list like objects. List like objects means there might be, let's say there is a shopping cart, and shopping cart contains tea, coffee, milk, sugar. Okay, there is a list. All these can be added to a particular data structure, which we call it as array. And these arrays are ordered collection of value. Ordered in the sense they are always indexed or ordered. There is a particular order they appear. Like in the case we saw here in the compartment, C1 is in the first position, C2, C3, C4, C5. Okay, there is an order associated with these compartments. The very first compartment, second coach, third coach, fourth coach, fifth coach. Okay, that is what I meant by order. Let's see how that can be addressed here in terms of arrays, how we implement arrays, how we define arrays, and all that. We'll subsequently see them one by one. But for now, understand that they are simple data structures. They are like list-like objects, and they have an ordered collection of values. So a special variable which can hold more than one value, that is what we saw. And arrays are mutable by default. So what we have seen in the 7 primitive data types, they are all unmutable, which means they cannot be modified or changed. Their values cannot be changed. If you have to change them, you just have to reassign another value. Okay, that is what the 7 primitive data types are. They are unmutable. But arrays are these simple data structures which are mutable by default. Let's see how they are mutable. And arrays can contain a mix of different data types. Again, there is a good example here that arrays can store multiple values, and those multiple values can be of different data types. Like it can store number with a combination of string, with a combination of another data type, maybe a object, or it can also store null or undefined values as well. Okay, so arrays can have a mix of different data types, and at the same time you can declare array. Always it's a good practice to declare a array with a const keywords. Okay, because there is a reason why we are using const here, and we'll understand that subsequently why const. And then a syntax for defining or declaring an array will be const array name is equal to, within the square brackets you are going to enter the items, and these items are separated by comma. You can say that as an item, or you can say that elements of an array. Okay, element or item, interchangeably you can use them. So the array contains these elements, and these items or elements are separated by comma, and array ends with a square bracket, starts with a square bracket and ends with a square bracket. So in our example that what we have started here, there is a train with a compartment like C1 all the way to C5. And this means there are multiple values an array can take: C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5. Let's see how an array created. An array can be created using a square bracket. Let's see that, which is const coaches is equal to C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, and these are what? These are the strings. If you put them in single quote or double quote, doesn't matter. Const coaches is equal to, open the square bracket and close the square bracket, and within the square bracket you are going to enter the elements of an array, and those elements are separated by comma. And in this case, all the elements of this array are strings. So that is the reason you can see them in double quotes, and they can also be put in single quotes like any other string as well. Okay, so using a pair of square brackets, you can create an array. Now, if you see this array, you can also say that array have a ordered collection. That is what we saw, which means there is an indexing of an array that happens. Like the way we saw it in strings, even arrays can be indexed. It always starts with 0. That is the reason arrays are also 0 indexed. We call them as a 0 indexed, which means the index of the very first element is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to the end of an array. All right, so they always increment by 1, the indexes, and it always starts with a 0, which means there is there is a sequence that they are arranged or kept in an array as elements of an array. All right, and there is an array that you can also create using a string method called split. This is what we saw earlier as well. Split is a inbuilt string method that will take string as an input and return an array of each individual element. Like for example, let's say let academy is equal to skills. This is what the string is. Now academy can be split. Okay, you can use split, And how do I want to split? I just want to just type split, that's all. Okay, but what is the way that I can go ahead and split? If I want to split each individual letters, I can just say by empty. So that will create what? An array with each individual character, like S K I L L Z A M, and this I can go ahead and assign to another variable, which might be const array 2 is equal to. So now array 2 will contain this particular array. So what we're trying to say is you can also create an array using a string method called split. That is what we saw. It has created that. And if I go ahead and say uh, type of array 2, then it will return a type called object. Okay, always remember the type of array will always be object. It will not be array. Okay, it will be of a object type. Again, why this is an object and how there are methods associated with this object, we'll see that subsequently. But now just keep a thought behind your mind that array is of the type object. All right, now arrays can also be created using a constructor function, inbuilt function called array, a capital here. Okay, always a capital here, with or without using a new operator, which means, let's say I am going to create another array, let's say array 3 is equal to, I am going to use a new operator with a constructor function. This is a constructor function, array function, that is inbuilt in the JavaScript. You just need to specify the elements of an array into this, which means I can go ahead and say 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Okay, and now if I go ahead and recall this, it will create an array with each individual elements that I have given as a parameter to this constructor function. Okay, this is again another way to create a array. Let's say this type of, if I go ahead and see the type of, it is still an object. Okay, this is again another way that you can go ahead and create an array using a array constructor method with a new operator. You can skip new also, that is also fine. You can do that, there is no problem at all. And at the same time, if I go ahead and let's say const array 4, if I go ahead and create, and let's say it is new, and then I'm going to give array constructor function, inbuilt constructor method or a function. Inside that, if I go ahead and give let's say a string, let's say skills and, so this will create an array with only single element. Okay, array 4, which will be a array created with only one element in that array. Okay, then there is again dot length, if I go ahead and see, which means there is a property in the arrays which is called array method or array property, which is called length, like the way it has in string. Dot length will give me the length of this array, which is 1. 1 means it is containing only one element or the item. Okay, so far are you guys clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And then how do we access an element of an array? Okay, now we saw how to create an array, different ways that you can create an array, but how do we access a particular element of an array? Let's say there are these set of numbers. Okay, an array contains 21, 99, 34, and all the way to 66. There are total 8 elements in this array. Okay, the length of an array is 8 here. Now, how do I access the element of an array? Element of an array can be accessed using the square brackets. Like you give the array name within the square bracket you give the index, like in this case numbers square bracket 1, which means at the index position 1 of the array numbers return me that value, then this will return the value 99, which is this value. And then number at the index position 6, which is this one, which is 39, then this will return the value 39. The same, I mean, if I go ahead and see array 3, okay, array 3 will contain what? 4 elements, 1 2 3 4. And if I go ahead and say if I want to access 4, then what index I need to give in the square bracket, guys? Can anyone tell me? If I want to access the number 4,
3.
yeah, that's correct. We can give 3. So that will return the value 4. Okay. That is how we access the elements of an array. And the next is modifying an array. Then here is where we are saying that arrays are mutable, because you can modify an array. You can change the content or the value of an array. Okay, how do we change that? You select the index, the element, and then you use the assignment operator. So numbers, which is an array, within the square bracket you are giving the index, which is that the index position 3, so which contains 76, but you are assigning a new value called 23. So now the new array will contain the same numbers array will contain 23 here instead of 76, like the way what we can do. Let's say this let's say this is an array. Array 3 contains 1 2 3 4. Now I want to change, instead of 4 I want to change this to 5. I can do that using indexing of 3, which will return me 4, and then use the assignment operator, assign the value 5. And now if I go ahead and find the array 3, instead of 4 I am getting 5. So what we are trying to demonstrate here is arrays are mutable, they can be changed. Okay, are you guys okay with this? Now let's go ahead and see how do you remove an element in the array. So we saw accessing, we saw modifying. Now I want to remove an element. Let's say I want to remove this particular element or this element. So what I can do is I can use an operator called delete. A delete operator can be used to delete an element of an array. And now numbers of 0 index is 21. And if I say delete this, it is going to remove this particular element. But the catch here is this is going to create a sparse array. What is this sparse array? The moment you use this delete, an array which elements are not sequential and they do not start with 0, which means the array will be creating holes. Now let's see this, what it means. Now let's say there is a array 3. Okay, now I want to delete a very first element. So the very first element can be accessed at the index position 0, which is containing the value 1. Now if I go ahead and use delete and enter, which will return the value true or false. So this is a Boolean operator, whether it is return, if it is deleted, it will return true. Now when it's returning true, if I go ahead and see the array, this has created holes in the array. Holes in the array means there is an empty value that is created. It is not completely eliminated. If I go ahead and access this position, it is saying undefined, which means there is a position that is existing which is currently not holding any value, which means it is currently undefined. And this is something that will create a sparse array. Delete create a sparse array, that is an array which the elements are not sequential and they are not always starting at 0, which means at the 0 position it is not starting because you have deleted it. Now it is starting from here. Okay, because this is undefined. So this is called creating a holes in an array. But now question comes, So what is the workaround? So what is the other way to do it? Again, there is a way that you can completely eliminate the entire element in the array using a array method. Again, there is an array method. Just to give you one example, let's say array method. There is an array method called pop. Okay, if I use this pop array method, what it will do, it will remove the last element of an array. Now if I go ahead and see, the element 5 is removed. Okay, and there is also shift, there is unshift, there is pop, push, all that is there. We'll see how to do that. Okay, now if I go ahead and use shift, then again shift is again a method which is part of it. And now if I go ahead and access this, the very first, which is undefined, is removed using the shift method. Shift removes from the first and pop removes from the last. Again, what they are, we'll see that once again, but this is again one of the way that you can delete or remove an element in an array other than the delete operator. Okay, now let's go ahead and see what is meant by nested arrays. Okay, nested, as it itself says, nested means an array within an array. That is what we call it as a nesting of an array. Okay, nested if statements, nested for loops, all those nested keywords is meant that array within an array. Okay, all right guys, so what is this nesting? Nesting of an array means an array within an array. That is what we call it as nested array. So nested arrays are always multi-dimensional in nature. They are also called as multi-dimensional array. And when the multi-dimensional arrays are, as if like you can think them as a table which contains rows and columns, r number of rows and c number of columns. We'll see what that example is with an example. Let's say in a multi-dimensional arrays, we can store array inside an array, that is nested array. Let's take this example. So this is a simple table. What this table contains, it contains three rows, one, this first row, second row and third row, and there are three columns. This is first column, second column and third column. So this can be thought of as a 3 by 3 matrix. Okay, now let's assume that this is the first row, this is second row and third row. All right, now what it contains, and this can be represented by a subscript. How do we access them? Like the first array, one array, two array, three array. So the array one, which is a row or a column, if you consider a column, this will be an array. If you consider a row, this will be an array. All right, so always when you have a multi-dimensional array, it can be represented by subscripts. So if you want to access this element, you need to have 0 and 0 within the square brackets. Like, let's say you have this array 1. So what array? And let's say array 2, let me take. Array 2 contains this. Okay, it contains all the way skills n. Now if I want to access array 2, the very first element, I am going to use square brackets, and within the square brackets I am going to put the index. In the same way, in order to access a multi-dimensional array, which is an array within an array, I am going to use two subscripts or the two indices, which is the first is a row, second is a column. The first one indicates the rows and second one indicates the column, which is here 0 row and 0th column, here 0th row and first column, which is first column, and 0th row, which is the second column. Okay, here there is first row and 0th column, first row, first column, first row and second column. That is what you read this multi-dimensional array. Now let's consider this. If I want to store this particular in a array, how do I do that? Let's say this is the first row, which is you are defining const row will contain 1 comma 2 comma 3, which is 1 2 3 is the first array that is defined, which is a row 1, and the second row 4 5 6, 4 5 6, which is the second row that is defined, declared, and then there is third row which is containing 7, 8, 9. So now I have these three rows and three individual single dimensional arrays. Now I want to put these arrays into another array, then I can able to say, like, you'll create a matrix which is a array, which is the outer array, which is matrix 1, which contains inner arrays row 1, row 2, row 3, which signifies this. Okay, let's take this here. Let me go ahead and create this. Let's say const row 1 will be equal to what? Let's say 1 comma 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 2 comma 3. Okay, this is 1. Then there is const row 2. I can go ahead and create. Then this might contain what? 4 comma 5 comma 6. All right, and then there is const row 3, which will contain an array of 7, 8, 9. All right, there are three arrays that have been created. All right, now if I go ahead and access row 1, it will contain an array with three elements. At the index 0, 1, index 2, index 1 it is 2, index 2 it is storing the value of 3, which is this. And so is the case with row 2 and row 3. But I am creating a matrix. Matrix, let's say I call this as a matrix, is equal to, it is a array of arrays, which is a nested array. This will contain, let's say, row 1 comma row 2 comma row 3, which means it contains a multiple arrays. So if I go ahead and expand this, it contains three arrays, 1, 2, and 3, and three arrays. At the first position, there is an array. At the second index, there is an array. And if I want to access this, let's say here, I want to go ahead and access at the 0th position. What it will contain? Sorry, what is the MA? Oh, I have given a wrong name here. MAR I have written. Okay, it's a spelling mistake. Anyways, we, instead of matrix, we are given matrix. Okay, fine. MARTIX at the 0th index will contain one array, which is the row 1. It is getting the row 1, which is nothing but 1, 2, 3. Okay, and if I want to access row 2, then it will be at the index 1, which is nothing but row 2 will be accessed, which is 4, 5, 6. And finally, at the index 2, it will be accessing 7, 8, 9, which is at the row 3. All right. Now let's say this is the matrix that currently exists, which is a 3 by 3 matrix. Now, if I want to access an element 5, how do I access using matrix? Okay, how do I give if I want to access a matrix 5, value 5? So always remember, you need to use this particular subscripts, which is row and column, row and column. So in this, the row is 1 and column also holds the value 1, because index 0, 1, 2 and 0, 1, 2. So the value of 5. Okay, are you guys able to follow this? How we are accessing in a multi-dimensional array?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is the case. If I want to find the value 9, 9 will contain what? 0, 1, 2, which is the rows, and 0, 1, 2 is the columns. So this column will be 0, 1, 2, 2 comma 0, 1, 2, which is 2. 2 comma 2 will give me the value of 9. So let's say this is 2 comma 2 will give me the value 9. All right. So again, the assignment can also change here. If I go ahead and assign 10, then the value of that 2 comma 2 will become 10. Okay, which means if I access the row 3, row 3 will contain what? 7. The matrix will contain what? If I go ahead and find the matrix only, this will contain, if I go to the row, this will contain 10. Okay, that is how I am going to change. But observe this. But not only matrix has changed the original the nested matrix, but the assignment has also changed the original row that is defined here. This array, which is row 3. Row 3 was 7, 8, 9. Instead of that, it has now become 7, 8, 10. All right. So that is something we want to understand about nested matrix or nested arrays in particular. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's now jump into what we call it as array methods. So let's proceed. Now, I want to talk about something related to array methods. Like the way we have seen in string methods, array also has got inbuilt methods that JavaScript provides. Okay, because we have already seen the type of operator for an array will return an object. So whenever there is an object, there is bound to be the methods or properties associated with that array, with that object. Now, let's say, let me clear that. Even digit is an array that I just created. Even digit array contains 4 values. Okay. Now, even digit, if I put a dot operator, it will list me all the properties that the method has. And this can be a property or the methods that this array object has. Like length is a property. If I put that, length will be 4, because 1 2 3 4 4 elements of an array exist. And at the same time, array has got at operator, concatenate, fill, filter, find, flat, again join, index of, includes. All these are called as array methods. Now let's take one by one and see what these basic array methods are. Let's go ahead and talk about the very first array method, which is called as pop method. Okay, so what this pop method will do, let's talk about that. Okay, so always remember that array methods can be accessed using a period operator followed by a method name. So always a period is nothing but a dot operator followed by a period, a method name. And this method can contain a parameter or it cannot contain, because some are requires mandatory to enter a parameter or extra information inside the parenthesis. Some are not requiring any parameters. Okay, let's take them one by one. The very first operator, very first array method we are talking about is pop method. What does this pop method do? Pop method removes the last element from the array and returns that element. Okay, so it removes last element of an array. Let's take that example. So let's say this is an array, we have even digit. I want to remove the last element, which is 10. I need to use pop. Okay, just use pop without any parameters. That's it. Sorry, I used yeah, without any parameters. So what it has returned, it has returned the popped element, which is the element 10. And if I go ahead and see the original array, the element 10 has been removed or deleted from the original array. Okay, this is what the pop method does. Okay, then next is a push method. Push method, what? Like pop, this is opposite of pop. It, as pop removes, push will add. Push adds one or more elements to the end of an array and returns the new length of an array. Now this is what this will do. It will add one or more elements to an array and returns the length of an array. Let's see that with this same example. Let's say this is the even digit. Even digit dot push and I want to push what, let's say 8 comma, let's say just 8, let's say 8. Now, what has this returned? It has returned 4. 4 is the length of the new array, which because the new array contains pushed element, which is 8, and the total length is 4. That is what the 4 is here. 4 is nothing but the length of the returned array, which is we have added 8. Always remember, adding of an element will take place at the end of an array. All right, and using the push, I can also add multiple values as well. Like for example, just 8, I can go ahead and add 10, I can go ahead and add 12 or 14, all that. Now the new length is 7, and the new array will contain 8, 12, 14. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. This is what we call it as push method. All right, and the next method that we have is shift. So understand that pop will remove from the end of an array, whereas shift will also remove, but at the start of an array. Okay, that is the reason shift is used to remove the first element from an array and return the removed element. Whatever the element that is removed, that is going to be returned. Like in this case, if I clear that, the array contains this, and if I use shift on this array, shift method, then 2 is the element that will be removed. Then shift, then enter. So this shift method will return the element that is removed, which is 2 is removed. That is what it is returning. And if I go ahead and check what the array contains, it does not contain 2 now, because 2 is removed using the shift method. All right, then the next one is unshift, which is undoing what shift does. Okay, which is nothing but instead of removing, it is adding. So add one or more elements to the beginning of an array and return the new length of an array. It is somewhat like the push method. Push does at the end and this does at the beginning. All right, now let's go ahead and see. Now there is this even digit. Even digit starts from 4. Let's go ahead and add unshift. Okay, unshift, and what element I want to add? Unshift 2, which means I am going to add 2 as a value of an element at the beginning of an array, which means the new array will contain 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, all the way. Let's see that. And it will return the length of an array of the new modified array. So let's go ahead and see. This 2, what I have unshifted, it will be added at the beginning of an array. Here earlier 4 was there, it has added 2. Okay, even unshift can add multiple values as well, like the way we can add for push as well. Okay, next is includes. What is this includes? Includes is kind of a boolean method. What it means is it will return true or false. On what basis is it returning true or false? Let's see that. Include specifies whether an array includes a certain element. If it is existing, if the element exists, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. This is what the index is. So index says includes, you can specify the element, and from index, which means you want to search from a particular index. We'll see this as an example, what this means. Let's say even digit, I want to find whether 10 exists in the even digit array. For that, I'm going to use includes, and I'm going to give the value 10. So what it says is, in this array, 10 is the element that exists in the array. And the same case, if I want to find 16, see if it doesn't exist in this array, but I'm trying to find that. Let's see what happens. It will return the false value. Okay. But there is one more parameter that it contains, optional parameter from index. What it means is this particular includes, like for example, I want to see whether 10 exists, but I want to see from the index position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From the fifth index position, I want to see, which means this should return false. Let's say 5. What will happen? Starting from fifth index position all the way till the end of an array, I am trying to find 10. So 10 doesn't exist here because only 12 and 14 exist. And if I find 12, then it will return true because 12 exists from the fifth index. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 5, 6 index from the position, start position 5. I am trying to find whether 12 exists. So this will return true. Okay. Whereas for this, right, if I change it to 4, because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, it will say true. If I say 0, 1, 2, 3, if I say 3 also, this will say true. Let's see that. For 10, if I say 3, it will say true because from 0, 1, 2, 3, from this all the way till the end of an array, find whether 10 exists. So 10 does exist. That is the reason it is sending the value, returning the value true. All right. So let's go ahead and see the next method, which is indexOf. IndexOf, again, we saw the same indexOf in strings. It is the same functionality. What it says, it will return the first index at which a given element can be found in an array. If the element doesn't exist, then it will return -1. Okay, let's see that. Let me clear that. Let's say I want to find, let's say, const odd digits. Okay, I'm just creating another array just to show you. Let's say 3, 5, 7, 9, 3. I'm just repeating one more array. I'm just repeating one more value. Let's say 11. Okay. Let's say these are the odd numbers. Okay. So odd digits contain, I purposely added another repetition of 3 just to show you the indexOf method. Now, for 3, 5, 7, 9, 3, and 11 are the odd digits that the array contains. Now, if I go ahead and find indexOf, let's say the value, sorry, dot digits dot index index of the value 3, what it will return? It will return the very first index at which the given element is found. The moment 3 is there at the 0th position itself, it will say it is found at the 0th position. It will not say whether 3 also exists at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth index. It will not return because indexOf will only return the very first time the value finds, and that index position will be returned. Okay, that is the catch here. Even though there are two values of 3 exists in the same array, but it is going to return the very first value that it is going to find in the array, that position or the index. And in the same way, like includes, you can also have a from index. I can also specify from where I want to search. Like for example, if I want to search it from index position 1, so I'm leaving this, I'm starting here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the index position 1 all the way till the end of the array, find whether 3 exists. Okay, and return me the index position. So there is 3 that exists and it is at the index position 4, which means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. At the fourth index position, there is a value called 3 that exists. Okay, this is How? You need to understand. Now, the another way is I am trying to find an index position of a number which does not exist. Let's say 13 doesn't exist in this array. Okay, let's find that. What value it will be returned? Let's see. So, index of method will return minus 1 when the value or the element is not found. All right, and there is also another method we have got which is known as concatenate. As the name suggests, it is used to merge two or more arrays, and it doesn't change the existing array, but instead returns a new array. Let's see that. Okay, now let's say I want to add a concatenation. So I have created a couple of arrays, right? So what arrays I have created already? I have created even digit. Okay, I have also created odd digits, right? Odd digits and even digits are the two arrays that I have already created. Now let's say I want to create const. I want to create just a array called digits, and this array will be like even digits dot concatenate, sorry, concat, and I'm going to give the another which is odd digits, or digits. Okay, if I hit enter, if I go ahead and see digits, what digits will contain? Digits will contain all the elements of this array, and all the elements of this array combined, it will return the final array. So an array dot concatenate, and the parameter that you can pass is another array, okay, which is this array. So here 7 elements exist in this array, and here 6 elements exist. 6 plus 7 is 13. So total 13 elements are exist here. And understand that the even digit array elements, which are all the way till 14, comes first, and then the odd digits, which is right from 3 to 11, will come next. Okay, there is no sorting that happens here. It is the way they appear, they'll be appearing here. But the original arrays are not modified. If I go ahead and find this still contains 7, and if I go ahead and find odd digits, it is still containing the same elements. So original arrays are not modified, but the resultant array, which is newly created, will be returned. Okay, this is what the concatenate array does. Concatenate method, which is concat. All right, and finally there is a join method. What it says: returns a new string. Mind you, this is returning a new string, like split in array in strings does. It will return an array. Here join will return a string from an array. So if there is a question that comes up, like given a array, I want to get a string out of an array, you can use join. Okay, so join, what it does, it will return a new string by concatenating all the elements in an array separated by comma or specified separator, which is an optional. Let's say this. Okay, let's say I have even digit dot join. Just join, that's it. So what is this going to return? If you see single quotes and single quote, this is nothing but a string. If I go ahead and assign this as some value, right, let str is equal to, now if I go ahead and see type of str, which will be string data type, which means even digits is an array which will contain 2 to 14 numbers, and join is the array method which is operating on the array, and it will return a string of all the elements. And now there is a separator is given here. If I don't want a comma, I can specify a separator. Like for example, if I go ahead and say I want to add a separator called spaces instead of comma, I can do that. So instead of comma here, I am adding space here. Okay, I'm adding space here in a string. Okay, this is because of this parameter that I have passed. The separator is a space, or I can go ahead and give hyphens as well. Whatever I can wish, I can give. Even hyphens, that is also fine. I can also give a hyphen or a dash like this. All right, this is what the join does. Join will take the input of an array and return a string containing all the elements of an array. Okay, all right guys, thank you, and you
Thank
guys have a good night.